Okay. Everyone's ready. Good morning, everybody. My name is Gene Coltaz. I'm presiding member for the Development Assessment Panel this morning. I'd like to open the meeting and acknowledge the traditional owners and pay respects to elders past and present of the land on which the meeting is being held. Item 2 on the agenda are apologies from Councillor Michael Hancock, Councillor Shavanis Peter, or is it Peter Shavanis? I'm not sure. Councillor John Keogh. Next item is members on leave of absence. There are none. Item 4, noting a meeting minutes. They are on the DAP website. Part B on the agenda. There's a declaration of due consideration. All members of the panel on this item familiar with the substance of all reports. Thank you. And Mayor Williams, I didn't see your hand raised. Thank you. Sorry. Okay. The disclosures of interest. There's a standing disclosure of interest from councillors who participate in council discussions on the item. And they are permitted to exercise independent judgment in relation to the item today. I've declared an impartiality interest in that I am a member of the WA Planning Commission, which is the owner of Lot 16 Port Hollow Drive, opposite the subject site.
I'd also like to declare an impartiality interest, presiding member. The firm that I work for, Taylor Burrell Barnett, has assisted the City of Armadale in the preparation of the local planning strategy. Personally, I have not been involved in that project, so I believe it's an impartiality interest.
Okay, that's fine.
And I declare an interest from Hassel, the firm that I work for, is involved in the town centre structure plan. I have nothing to do with it.
Okay, well, I'll determine that you are able to participate in the discussion on the item today.
Presiding member, I'd like to make the same declaration as yourself in relation to the West Australian Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Councillor Knight is also a member of the Planning Commission. So, disclosure of interest, item 3, Form 1 DAP application, Lot 17, Port Hollow Drive, Greenfields, a proposed motor vehicle wash and warehouse storage facility. We do have a deputation or a combination of people making a deputation. Mr. David Reid from Element Advisory, Marina Klaywick from KCTT Engineering, and Paul Ogilvie, who is the developer. I think, Mr. Reid, you're going to do the presentation.
Yes, that's right.
Right, thank you. If you proceed, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman and panel members. So, given the time constraints,
please proceed.
thank you. And the recommendation for approval, there's no objectors present, so I'll flick through the PowerPoint a little, as I'm sure you'll have seen it, especially this plan. Claire. So which button am I using? Just
the right,
yeah,
right arrow
so
there.
you're freed up.
Yeah.
Thank you. So just quickly on the ODP, it's important to note that this land's constrained from a planning sense due to a wastewater treatment plant. With this 2013 ODP encouraged a motor vehicle car wash, but also included uses such as veterinary hospitals, light industry, funeral parlours, none of which needed to ever be advertised. In fact, it's only the building storage yard that actually needed to be advertised. Only one tree on the commercial site that needed to be protected, and the residential land on that ODP was subdivided and sold off around 2018. No upgrading required for the intersection of Mandurah and Gordon Roads. So these are the substantial trees on the boundary we're actually trying to save beyond that single tree on the ODP. You can also see here on the right-hand side, especially that bottom image, is the level change between our site and that boundary. So these are the plans that we amended following advertising. So firstly, we amended them to bring that 2 metre high concrete wall 5 metres in off the boundary and up at the level of the car wash. It's actually about 1.5 metres above the boundary level to address privacy and noise impacts, but also allow for those trees on the boundary to remain. Secondly, we increased the setback of the car wash from 5 metres to 9 metres. We increased acoustic treatments, included security gates, CCTV cameras, security lighting, etc. So I don't think we need to discuss this one too much, just the self-lock storage units, other than to note that obviously a 2 metre high wall on the boundary doesn't serve any amenity purpose, given the back wall of those units is already there and 5 metres back. So this is the main thing we want to focus on. So there's 6 of the 32 conditions that we wish to challenge that was outlined in our presentation request. So the first one is condition 2, that requires a 2 metre high masonry wall on the boundary. And we don't believe that's reasonable, as it requires the removal of those trees on the boundary. It serves no amenity purpose, given the other wall is already there, set back 5 metres, clearly providing better privacy and also better acoustic solution. And building it will actually require the disruption of 5 neighbours, and it also leaves that southern neighbour with a 2 metre high concrete wall on half the boundary, and the rest of the boundary is an existing colour-bond fence, which we don't think is a desirable solution for that neighbour. So we think it's clearly a better outcome for those existing fences to remain. We do, though, think that it's reasonable to have a security benefit by having a visually permeable fence to provide security over that landscaped area at the back, given the lack of passive surveillance over this area. So requiring an 1800 garrison fence just on that northern side of that landscaping strip, just to give that area a bit more security. The next condition we want to have a look at is condition 4. So the acoustic report requires the car wash to be shut at 10 p.m. We're asking for an 8 p.m. close, not 7 p.m. that's in the condition. And the self-lock storage facility to close its gates at 6 p.m, but then allow for controlled fob access after this time. So the most likely user of that self-lock storage facility are tradies, who are likely to require access before and after normal 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. start times and finish times. But fob control access will record who's using the storage facility, allow for management to address any potential noise concerns, and management concerns can always be addressed by that noise management plan that's required by condition 27. So we think 8 p.m. is more than a reasonable closing time for the car wash, especially in summer when it's sort of lighter at night. And we also note the acoustic report requires hoods on the vacuum units, automatic garage doors on the auto wash, acoustic panels on the roof, and basically certifies that this complies with the noise regulations right up to 10 p.m. So given the commercial zoning that specifically allows for a car wash and all these amenity controls, we don't think it's unreasonable to have an 8 p.m. close time. So condition 10 relating to delivery vehicles, we're just asking for this condition to be deleted. It's not a shop or a fast food outlet or that needs refrigerated trucks. Delivery vehicles are probably some car wash suppliers, but I'm not sure what that condition actually means when you have a storage facility where you get work vans and utes delivering and collecting materials. So I think in any event, this is already controlled by condition 4 and also condition 27, which requires a noise management plan. So on the landscaping, we've already been through the tree protection beyond that single tree on the ODP and just don't want this opened up again after the approval's issued. We can save the 4 trees at the rear as long as we don't do that boundary fence. The trees were already saved as part of the ODP in the POS area and in that rear landscape zone. And this was the agreement reached in 2013. And we really don't want to go beyond it. We also contacted DBCA at the start of the process, given the mapped TECs over the road, who didn't require any other trees to be protected. Condition 10, where again, this condition is just superfluous, just delete the condition. We have the noise management plan for condition 27, the acoustic report implementation condition at 28, and the hours of operation condition at 4. It's just a superfluous condition. And then the last one is the road upgrading condition. We're also asking for that one to be deleted. There's just no need to upgrade that intersection at all with that right turn movement with the development now, or even in 2035, when it still operates at a level of service A. So the condition doesn't satisfy the needs test, let alone the nexus test. So our traffic consultant is actually here, Marina from KCTT. She can speak to this in the next 2 slides if the DAP panel would like her to. And then we're happy to take questions after that.
Okay, thank you. if you'd like to make a presentation on that, just at condition 32, is it?
Yes.
Oh, 33 actually it is.
Already. KCTT prepared transport impact assessment for this development in accordance with WPC guidelines, and subsequently we did CIDRA modeling at the request of City of Mandurah. So the traffic data was collected by Matrix, specialized traffic data collection company, and the goal of that was to capture turning movements and volume of traffic at the intersection of Portola Drive and Gordon Road as it is today, so that we could accurately model the development. Our assumptions were that the passing traffic will have a compound growth of 2% per annum. In subsequent discussions, that was accepted by Department of Planning. And one of the points of contention was what is the actual traffic generation of an automated car wash. There are some planning rates for manual standard car washes, but supposedly automated traffic car wash, according to American guides, can generate up to 70 vehicular movements per hour, which did not sound correct. We got a letter from the manufacturer who confirmed that the washing cycle is 6 minutes. Therefore, in 1 hour, the machine cannot process physically more than 10 vehicles. And obviously that is assuming that they're all perfectly lined up and there's no delay in leaving and accessing the machine. Therefore, we produced another set of CIDRA models, assuming maximum vehicular generation from automatic car wash. And in all of that modeling, what came out is that the right turn on Portola Drive is the movement that is affected, not the right turn on Gordon Drive. It is not affected by the development, but by the passing traffic. Queuing is negligible. There is no blocking of the intersection. It's simply the function of through traffic on Gordon Road, reducing turning opportunities. But the right turn from Gordon Road does not have any issues in terms of operation in movement sense, or in terms of capacity. So if we, so if you, here are the screenshots of CIDRA modeling results, which show quite clearly the capacity of the right turn movement on Gordon Road is between 0.1 and 0.2, which is very, very far from even threshold of level of service A, which is 0.6. With or without development, this movement performs well.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Anyone else presenting? If not, panel members, any of you got questions of the presenters? No? Thank you very much for your presentation. Panel members, do you have any issues to raise with the council staff that are here? Mayor Williams? Sorry, you're on mute.
Sorry, Chairman. Could I please ask City of Mandurah officers to provide comment in relation to each of the proposed amendments?
Sorry, we've just could you start again, Mayor Williams? We just couldn't hear you for a moment.
Could city officers please respond to each of the proposed changes to conditions outlined in the presentation?
You have a copy of the presentation, I presume? You can have this presentation here referred to. No, up there, thank you. I don't think we've got a microphone. We'd like to listen to each one of those. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Williams, for the question. The city has requested a verification report to discuss the hours of operation. We believe that while there's probably some good argument that was raised by the presentation, the verification report that the city is seeking will probably help make that decision in the future. I believe it's condition number 28. So we would believe that the condition remains valid and should be addressed through that verification, then coming back to council for that adjustment.
If I get you to condition 28, can you respond to the question, the request for modifications or deletions, starting with condition 2A?
Condition 2, thanks through the chair. Condition 2 relates to the second masonry fence. Through the submission process or the advertising process, we went to surrounding neighbours who raised a number of concerns relating to noise, privacy, and it's acknowledged the applicant adjusted the wall height and the wall position so it was more effective on the same level as the car wash. We then went back to the people who've made the submissions and asked what their preferred finish would be, because obviously the outline development plan, which is approved for the site, refers to a 2-metre masonry wall. Acknowledging that would require trees lost, that is literally the expression that the neighbours who are affected, that was the outcome that they asked for. I've said this previously, that if I lived next door, I don't necessarily think that's the outcome I would want, but that is, it's not what's being asked because I don't live there. The people who live there have asked for that 2-metre masonry wall in addition to the secondary one, acknowledging that may result in some tree loss.
For clarification, where the car wash is at the back boundary of the car wash, yes, you've got 5-metre landscaping strip. Are you asking for a wall along the boundary and then another wall along the rear boundary of the residential lots?
Correct. Well, the wall on the boundaries that's shared between the subject lot and the residential lot adjacent, and on the car wash side of the 5-metre buffer, which would be on a higher level.
2 masonry walls.
Yeah, that was the feedback we got from the neighbours.
Okay, thank you.
Condition 4, as suggested, the hours of operation we believe should remain in that condition in its current state. The city's officers and also DWER had some concerns with some of the information and methodology provided within the acoustic report. So we believe that the verification report we've asked for in condition 28 should assist. It'll prove that the noise that's being generated from the uses are acceptable, or it won't. But we believe that's probably the best way to deal with it.
Please, thank you for that response. But as you previously referred to, condition 28, I think, was it, that required an updated noise management plan. If that updated noise management plan were to demonstrate that there was no excessive noise or impact during those additional hours that the applicant has asked for, does condition 4 in its wording, unless otherwise approved in writing by the City of Mandurah, allow that flexibility in the future?
Yes.
Should that lesser impact or limited impact be demonstrated sufficiently, then the applicant could apply to the city to have those hours amended?
That's exactly that's what we would think, yes.
I'm back for form 2. Yeah, okay, all right, thank you for that.
With respect to condition 10, I don't see any good argument to suggest we need to retain that condition. I think Mr. Reid has adequately summed it up. We could probably live without that one. And with respect to condition 22, the site works and landscaping plan, we'd be very keen on maintaining a condition which we can, go through the trees that are existing and the landscaping that's going to be provided. There is a large area between the two development areas on this site. It's noted there's a subdivision approval pending. I'm not sure if it's been issued yet by the Commission, but that will create these lots into 5 separate lots. But if we would imagine that the middle 3 lots, there's a lot of vegetation on there that we believe could be retained. So I don't think it's unreasonable to suggest that we need to relook at that while it's still on the same lot. The vacuum units to be acoustically hooded and not operated, that's probably already covered. I don't disagree that Mr. Reid's obviously probably covered that through the other conditions that we already have. In terms of the right turn upgrade to the Gordon Road, our traffic engineers have acknowledged that the SIDRA analysis would suggest that it's probably acceptable levels, but it also notes that the right turn is proved difficult by existing traffic. And it is also, there's a couple of aspects to this. It's noted the outline development plan actually asks for a contribution to a full signalised intersection. I don't think the city's in a position that we really want to argue for that. We believe that a right turn lane is probably going to do what we need it to do. And as I discussed, the 3 lots in the middle of the 2 lots that are being developed in this proposal, that's probably going to add significant traffic. Well, possibly, we don't know what's going to happen on them, but those land uses will have to be reflective of service commercial. So they're going to be also traffic generators, and we believe that it's appropriate to have a right turn lane to make it less, accident prone or less difficult to turn right from Gordon Road.
Can I
Yes,
ask
Karen.
another question? So am I hearing you correctly that you're suggesting that because future uses, which are unknown at this point, will increase traffic, that now that this application has come forward, they need to provide that access? That doesn't seem quite fair.
Just also seek a little bit of clarification. The contribution to the traffic lights, are you saying this site has to contribute 9% of that?
That's what the ODP noted.
Is that going to be imposed as a condition of subdivision or development?
The subdivision condition, we've asked for a condition, but obviously we don't know what the WAPC will do with that. I do note that the applicants have obviously sought to have that condition removed through the subdivision process as well. And acknowledging that we are looking for a right turn lane which will service this use and future uses which are as yet unknown. We believe that the introduction of a right turn lane isn't terribly onerous, and the traffic report itself even acknowledges the difficulty in turning right because of through traffic. We think this will help.
Pre-existing development, or this development, isn't it?
Yes.
And there's a lot of traffic currently using Bortolo Drive and Gordon Road that you're saying justifies a right turn now.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And that was pretty much all the conditions that we were to address.
He's got his hand up.
Yes, go ahead.
Thanks, Chairman. Could I just ask officers from the city to help me understand the difference between proposed condition 2 and what the applicant raised in their deputation, what physically that difference will look and feel like? I'm just finding it a little bit hard to exactly picture what that means.
So, thank you, Mayor Williams. So, what it will look like will be 2 significant masses of structure. One up on the level 5 metres in from the boundary, and then there'll be a 5 metre buffer and another 2 metre high acoustic wall on the boundary that's shared between the 2 properties. So one will be about 1.5 metres higher than the other, so it'll look like a terrace, I guess, but it'll have a landscape buffer in between rather than a retaining.
fence of 1800 to be placed at the northern boundary of the 5 metre. I'm not quite sure. To me, the northern boundary seems to be a 5 metre strip. Mr. Rick, you might clarify that for us.
Chairman, that where I'm talking about is up against the landscaping strip abutting Palomino Place. So at the moment, our plans didn't have a fence on that. So I'm just saying that that would provide the security to that landscaping zone because there's no passive surveillance over that area. It's really limited because it's the backs of other neighbours' fences. And so what I'm saying, if that area is secure, then that provides the security of that area, but it's just that 5 metre strip of that northern boundary that we're saying that needs the fence, not a whole fence right along all the neighbours' boundaries. Does that
Yes,
clarify,
yeah,
Mr. Chairman?
I'm trying to struggle with that. And I presume, Mr. Reid, you're just seeking to have the existing fence that separates the residential property with this car wash site.
Correct. So no secondary fencing along that boundary. They've all got neighbour fences there already. We're saying just leave them as they are.
The
And
masonry
then we'll
wall.
provide the fence at the 5 metre
Okay,
setback
thank you.
line at that
That
high level.
clarifies that from my point of view. Mayor Williams, does that clarify your?
So that's retaining the existing wall, the existing fence line.
That's
and
right.
A solid fence line.
Well, 5 metre landscaping strip plus a solid wall,
Which would retain the trees.
which would retain the trees and acoustic properties, I presume.
So,
Okay.
so I understood that that's what Mr. Reid was asking for. I'm really confused by what council was saying.
Well, council, I believe, is still asking for to remove the existing fence along the back of the residential property, and build another 2 metre masonry wall,
That's correct.
5 metre landscaping strip with another.
That's
So
right.
when
When
the
the city
masonry
went
wall.
back to the people who raised as a submission, that was their desire.
Okay. Thank you. Any further questions of?
I just wanted to check, because I think I might have missed you. Talking to condition 29, you were saying, I think that you were okay with that being deleted as per the applicant's request. Is that right, regarding the vacuum units?
Condition 29, yes, I think we've got that sufficiently taken care of through other
Thank you
conditions.
for that clarity. Okay.
Just,
Thank you. Councillor Knight?
just some further clarity, just to be really clear in terms of condition 4, because obviously the noise issue of the community has been one that has been raised many times. So this condition, along with condition 28, allows after a period of time, if it remains within normal levels, the applicant to come back and seek an extension.
Yep, that's how we saw the condition, so that the verification report will prove that we can consider additional hours.
Thank you. Further questions? Oh, sorry, Mayor Williams, I didn't see you.
Chairman, just picking up on the two panelists now referring to the condition in relation to the opening hours and the mechanism to change that, noting that whilst condition 28 speaks to the need for a noise verification report, it doesn't specifically in condition 4 allude to that noise condition report informing the consideration of a change to the hours. I wonder, both for fairness and transparency to the applicant, but also transparency to the community, if, and I'm asking for an officer's comment in relation to this, if an advice note be added that actually seeks to articulate that condition in relation to the noise verification report will inform the consideration given to changing hours. Just to provide that certainty and transparency to all parties that is the key consideration which will be looked at to determine any change to the trading hours. Could I get an officer comment in relation to that?
Thanks, Mayor Williams. We would certainly not have any objection to adding that footnote. It seems pretty, it just probably firms it up a bit. We might assume those things, but it maybe puts it a bit more clear for as Mayor Williams has suggested to the community and to the applicant. That is the purpose of that condition, and having that advice note would just point to it and potentially bring it to the front.
Thank you. Any further questions? If not, thank you, Aaron. Well, we have before us the application. Just back to the right. There was some additional information provided. I'm presuming all members had that in terms of the item. Right, well, we've got item 3.1, which is the proposed motor vehicle wash and warehouse storage facility. So we can discuss the matter as a panel. May I have a mover and seconder for the recommendations at this stage?
Oh, I'm happy. Mayor Williams has just put his hand up.
Moved Mayor Williams. Seconder.
I'm happy to second. Thank you.
Karen Hyde, thank you. Mayor Williams, would you like to speak to the item then, please?
Thanks, member. I wonder if the seconder will consider, I think it would be maybe easier to deal with some amendments to this now rather than through the debate. I would be proposing an amendment to the conditions that, firstly, the easy ones, remove condition 10.
Okay, remove condition 10.
Remove condition 29.
Condition 29.
And I have some questions in relation to the merits of condition 2, but I'd like to hear the panelists debate that before to put an amendment forward. So at this stage, I would just seek for the seconder to consider removing those two conditions. And then in addition to that, I'd also seek an amendment, as I spoke of earlier, that adds an advice note. And for the wording to the advice note, I'm sorry for the Secretariat that I'm making this up on the run, but the wording to the advice note could be something as follows. In relation to, so advice note, in relation to condition 4 and condition 28, a noise verification report will inform any request to alter approved trading hours, which will be subject to council approval. And my reason for that, Chairman, is both to be clear and transparent with the community about what the consideration will be and what the process for approval will be. So those two parts in the footnote. So before speaking to the item, I'd just maybe through you like to seek for the seconder's support for those amendments.
You have my support, Mayor Williams. I'm comfortable with the RAR recommendation, but with the removal of condition 10, removal of condition 29 and the new advice note, and I'm comfortable with your wording of that advice note too. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I thank the applicant for their presentation and for working with city officers, and I thank city officers for the RAR. I believe that the conditions in place seek to achieve an outcome on this site that is manageable. I understand that there's further conditions that the applicant would like to see removed, but I think we all have to acknowledge that despite the ODP contemplating this to be an appropriate use, if you lived next door to it and the vacuum cleaners and the noise issues were affecting you, that you would want to see conditions in place to this effect. And therefore, I think it is better to start with a high level of conditioning in place and provide mechanisms to renegotiate those conditions as we go forward. The buffer zones and the fencing, as I said, I'm interested in the panel's thoughts on, and it may well be that there's an amendment there, may well be that there isn't, we'll see. In relation to the traffic, condition 32, look, you know, the traffic modelling speaks to the issues around the difficulty. Having travelled as a local person on that road frequently, there is no doubt that this extra traffic generated by this development will seek to increase that level of difficulty, and it is fair and reasonable, in my view, for a contribution from a project such as this to be made to achieve a better outcome. It's not a significant contribution. In fact, it's a relatively easy outcome. So I would encourage the panel to support it, noting that I'm seeking some advice from the panel and open to some conversation from the panel in relation to condition 2.
Thank you. Karen.
Yeah, thank you. Look, I think the development fits with the planning framework. Obviously, there are some restrictions within the planning framework, and the applicants have come forward with a development typology, which is obviously much needed and is appropriate to that location, where there are a lot of other service type facilities. And I think it's cited well within the lot to avoid too much impact on other surrounding developments. It's obviously been through a design review panel, which is quite unusual for a use of this kind, but obviously the conditions reflect the desire to improve some of the materiality and colours and so on and so forth. So I'm happy to support, and like the Mayor, I'm keen to hear from other panel members specifically around condition 2, 22 and 32, which the applicant has sought amendments to. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Knight, do you wish to speak to that?
Yes, thank you. Look, I'll just go through the conditions. Well, firstly, I'd just like to say that this is quite a sensitive area. This, for those that that particular road, there is an abnormality in the fact that we've got this type of development at the end of what is predominantly residential use. A lot of high quality homes down further on Watts Hollow, and certainly over to the behind this particular property. So I understand the community's desire to have the conditions in place to protect the amenity of the area. Just in relation to the conditions, condition 33, I think the ODP, as the officer indicated, there was a requirement for signalised lights originally considered. So I think this is not an unreasonable ask. In terms of the landscaping, I think this is particularly important given the predominantly residential nature of the area and the fact that it sits within a tree preservation zone. So I think that that's one. Condition 2, I would like to discuss that one a little bit more. I hear the applicant's desire to keep the fencing that's already there, which also keeps the vegetation. So I would be interested to hear what other panel members felt about that particular condition.
Thank you, Mr. Lee.
So I'm quite happy with the councillor's comments on most of those conditions. I can't imagine creating a strip of 5 metres with concrete walls either side with no surveillance. I think the potential for problems for those residents of a no man's land with some vegetation in the middle of it is something we shouldn't be doing. So you need to be able to, there needs to be some passive surveillance of that space, otherwise it could be a disaster, whether it's a concrete wall on the back of the residence and a see-through wall on the other one, or something different. But the idea of creating a strip of 5 metres with concrete walls either side is not good urban design.
I would be happy to retain the current fencing, see the current fencing is retained, and then have the masonry set back
But you still got a 5 metre strip where no one can see what's happening there. So that's, so all sorts of things could happen in that space if you
The
jump over a wall.
Seek some clarity from
I think-
officers in terms of what the existing fence line is like.
Yes, Sharon, do you? I think we had some photos
It's
provided in the presentation of those rear fences.
Yeah, there's a mixture of all sorts of, open and the colour one here and there on that entire boundary. Yeah, there's nothing very consistent about it, I must say. Wire fencing in some areas.
Yes. I mean, my view of the condition 2 is that I'm not in favour of, like Mr. Lee, creating a concrete walkway. I think the fact that the existing fencing has worked for a long time, the status quo will remain in that the proponents will build a 2 metre acoustic wall along the back boundary of the car wash. I think that that's likely to satisfy or ameliorate any noise through that area. I think that the area at the moment has got passive surveillance to an extent to a bushland, so I would be seeking an amendment to, or moving an amendment to delete condition 2A. In regard to condition 22.
Sorry, Jean, and inserting that additional word. It's a replacement.
Oh, that's that small amount of fencing along the northern boundary, which is a visually permeable. Yes, I'd be supporting that. In regard to condition 22, just get a hold of that. That's sidewalks. I think the applicants are just saying that they want to well, the landscaping strip, is that proposed to do a lot of landscaping in there and retain all existing trees there? So I don't know why we need to, any existing vegetation and landscape areas to be retained and supplemented, I presume, are they? Yeah. Not sure what the amendment to the condition will add to it or not, so I'd be prepared to leave condition 22 as is. Condition 33, I think it's a fairly wide-ranging condition. It lacks certainty because it just says make satisfactory arrangements. Arrangements shall be made to upgrade the intersection with Portolo. Is there any hard and fast proposal for that intersection other than traffic lights? And if traffic lights do go in there, then the right turn movement would obviously be part and parcel of those works. So I just can't see how this condition can be imposed with any certainty, because I don't think the council knows what the cost of it is, what else will come out of the proposal to put in a right turn pocket, a dedicated right turn lane, and the nexus between these two developments and the traffic generated from that would probably be a very minor contribution to the overall. I understand that the other 3 lots, when they get developed, we don't know what's going to be there either. It's a pity the subdivision is not approved and has a bit of certainty as to the proportional arrangements that are there. So I don't know whether that opens up an appeal that we'd have to justify in terms of the arrangements to be made. Anyway, we can debate that a bit further if you wish.
So are you sorry?
Well, I'm moving that condition 33 be deleted.
As well as those changes to 2A,
And the changes to 2A.
Yeah.
There's amending motion to that.
Chairman, could I make a request? Could we deal
So
with,
like a seconder.
Chairman, could I make a request?
Okay, are you clear on Mayor Williams and other panel members what we're proposing?
I am. I'm just making a
Yes.
request.
Yes, if you like.
I think that the changes to condition 2 as requested will actually improve safety and security in that area. Like Mr. Lee, I'm quite concerned that having a fully enclosed area of bushland in that location, which is fairly sparsely populated, could lead to some unwanted antisocial behaviour, particularly after hours, which I think would be of great concern to the residents in that area. So the more that we can actually have some sighting of that area and visual access, I think the better. So I'm comfortable with the way that the applicant has suggested that wording be amended for that condition 2. And with regards to the last condition, whether it's 32 or 33, but the last condition, again, I feel that doesn't meet the test of need, nexus, and being reasonable or certain, given that there are perhaps existing traffic situations which need to be resolved. Therefore, this particular application is not necessarily the trigger for those upgrades. And I think we heard during question time that there are a number of other uses to come which indeed may well increase traffic. So I think an alternate arrangement for some form of contributions, it might be required, which has some level of equity and certainty around it. I'm not comfortable that this particular condition achieves that. So I would support the deletion of that. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Against the motion? No? Okay, all those in favour of the motion to modify condition 2 and delete condition 33. I think it's all in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the rest of the item. Are there any other foreshadowed motions or anyone wish to speak for or against? If not, then with the amended motion, substantive motion, I'll put that to a vote. All those. Oh, sorry, Mayor Williams, if you'd like to close debate on it. Okay. All right. Well, in that case, I'll put the amended motion as we've discussed. All in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. The application is approved, subject to the amended conditions. Thank you.
The last treatment.
We can say goodbye to that.
On the agenda, there's no further form.
No, should we say bye-bye to manager?
No, I'm just finishing off
Okay. Oh, right.
the running sheet,
Oh,
form
gosh, 'cause
4
we've
and
got two separate
form,
agendas.
item 4 and 5, there's nothing on that, so we can move on to part C of the agenda and thank Mayor Williams and Councillor Knight for your participation and the presenters who have left the building. Thank you very much. Okay, well, we move on to part C of the agenda, which is to look at 2 applications in the city of Armadale. Firstly, I'll ask for all members to indicate that they're familiar with the substance of all reports and information provided for consideration at this meeting. Thank you. Okay, there are no disclosures of interest on this. So we'll move on to item 3, which is the application. We do have presentations on 3.1. Mr. Ashley Richards.
Thank you, presiding members, officers from the City of Armadale. Thanks for the opportunity to present this morning as well. And we are in support of the officer's recommendation for the development at 10 Thomas Street in Armadale.
Abbey
okay.
Road,
Sorry.
Armadale, firstly. Don't worry, we get confused soon.
It's good you got so much work on.
So the first part you've already received, okay, in terms of the members. This site, 21 Abbey Road in Armadale, is a larger site than the one we were referring to in previous comments, but it's about 2,079 square metres in size, obviously R80 zoning. So in terms of its context where it is relative to the residential area, it is a reasonably large site, just sitting outside the CBD area of Armadale. Our proposal is obviously for apartments, but we're in terms of needs, we're looking at NDIS or SDA accommodation because we see the value and the need in the City of Armadale for this type of support. The level of performance that we're asking for is high physical support, fully accessible levels. However, generally most of the apartments will be improved livability with hopefully some opportunities, and the circulation provides for high physical support use. There's a total of 15 SDA apartments and 2 OOA apartments. The way the planning works is that we've got obviously a fairly flat site right through to the back of the property. There are significant trees on the front verge of the site, which we believe have a strong value in terms of the overall design development and want to retain those. There are no other trees or significant trees on the site, so generally the focus is on the front setback trees. We've provided a car park to the rear of the site with a driveway on the south side to help us in regards to overshadowing of the properties in the adjoining lots. There's a total of 14 resident bays and 3 visitor bays. From that car park, there is easy access to the apartments and also to the lift lobby. The entrance statement to the building is obviously very identifiable. It's very simple. It has a central access around the existing trees, which leads you to an open lobby courtyard, which is drenched with north sun, which will help from a common use point of view for the participants. The design concept really revolves around that central lobby to some extent. The lift lobby is reasonably central in terms of the development. The idea is to orientate 3 different building forms to the north as much as we can. Obviously, the front one does face to the street, which is west. However, that is protected by the large trees, and I say large trees within that setback zone. We have had an arborist look at the development, and we will probably provide some pruning of those trees depending on the nature once we get on site where the building line sits. The design philosophy is based around easy circulation around to these 3 building elements, if you like. Those building elements are 3 stories at the back, 2, and 2 stories at the front. The front will have the common facilities, a rooftop terrace, which will look into those trees, as well as an enclosed common area for the participants to take advantage of that outlook. The building architecture is very simple. What we're looking at is creating skillion type roof patterns, generally, which we think is sympathetic within the area of the Armadale residential precinct where the lot sits. Site contours are very flat. We will have to provide some fill. We'll obviously take some soil out to provide that fill across the site, We've had a geotech report prepared and really taken our consultant's advice in regards to the structure. The actual structure will be solid. It'll be a concrete column, concrete slab, suspended slabs with lightweight infill panels, which will achieve a 7-star rating for us. Those panels will be of a high quality laminated board type finish, which will sit comfortably in the area. The setbacks, obviously the front setback is considerable due to the existing trees that are there. The other setbacks would push the building as far back from that northern boundary to enable that passive solar access into the apartments and the lobbies as much as we can. I think we have asked for a minor variation in regards to that side setback along that northern side, but in context of the R codes, we think it's very reasonable. And certainly the city also acknowledges that 4 metres is a large setback for a side setback. I've mentioned before, very simple architectural use. We've broken the elevations up into materials and finishes, which will give contrast to the development. The driveway will also be broken up into various paving approaches, methods to break down the mass of the driveway. The skillions will have extended eaves, so we see the skillion roof as being an important part of the project to provide shade to those areas and also create a very strong roof presence. It's single aspect planning, so from solar access and ventilation, we believe that this will be successful in regards to meeting the R code principles. We had a very good response from the DRP meetings in regards to the way we've approached this project and consider it to be a good outcome for the area and certainly in terms of the community needs. The landscaping is really the feature of the development. Yep, okay. Landscaping is a feature. Obviously, we've got a number of areas, front courtyard, central courtyard, and the rooftop, which is our key focus for the development. So in general, this is really a quality development for the city of Armadale, and we believe that the scale of building mass is very suitable and will lead to design excellence. So happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ashley. Panel members, have you any questions of Mr. Richards? Yes, Mr. Lee.
Mr. Richards, congratulations on an architect. This is a very good solution. I like what's happening. Your perspectives are showing a very white building on the street, and yet your elevations are showing grey. And I just missed a bit. What sort of material are you using on that?
Look, we'll be using like a laminated board. It won't be if you like, a standard sort of finished flush jointed material. We want to express the joints with a nice laminated finish, like a CSR Sentinel type board finish. And yes, the perspectives are very white at the front. We want to break that up into some colour tones so that we get a bit of differentiation in colour throughout the building.
Well, it wasn't criticism, it's just...
Yeah, no, I agree.
There is a bit of grey here.
Yep.
And the other thing is you've got one disabled car bay in there, which we do lots of NDIS work as well. And
yep.
That in both projects, that surprised me a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, I guess where we've gone with that in the past is we've tried to future-proof this for standard residential as well to make it compliant with the R codes. Under the R codes, my understanding is you only need to provide one. But in these cases, because there's participants will not really have vehicles, I think we need to modify the parking to provide additional universal parking. If it needs to revert back in time, then it can do. Yeah.
That's a very happy with that explanation. That makes sense. A lot of the residents won't have cars. So.
No.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any further questions of Mr. Richards?
I just have one, please, presiding member. Did I hear correctly that you wanted to amend some setbacks? Was there a condition specifically in the RAR that you were seeking amendment to?
No, my understanding, there was a minor setback along the north. The normal requirement is for a 4 metre side setback. I think we've got a 3 metre side setback from memory. We spoke to the city about that, and they consider that that is more than reasonable. It actually
An
complies with the
application
R
of
code,
scratching.
so it's
That's fine.
considered
Yes.
reasonable.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Any further questions? If not, thank you, Richard. Panel members, do you wish to seek clarification on any raised in the RA or the presentation of Mr. Richards with the council staff? If not, thank you. We'll move into item 3.1 then. It's a application for residential dwellings. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved, councillor. Seconded. Mr. Lee, thank you. Councillor, would you like to speak to the item?
Just briefly, as you can see from the look on my face, we're so happy with this. Everyone I've spoken to is really looking forward to such a quality building coming to Armadale, a bit of density, but still sympathetic to the vegetation, which is such an important part of Armadale. And of course, it's the diversity as well. So it just ticks every box. So I think we're very excited. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee.
I'm totally supportive of it. It's actually really pretty clever solution on the site, and it's knowing all of the issues you have to deal with in these sorts of projects. It's an excellent solution and of high quality, which will be great for Armadale and for the people who end up living there. So very supportive.
Thank you. Karen, you.
I too am supportive of the motion to approve. These types of accommodation are much needed. There are a lot of people that require them, and I think this has been very well thought out, and suits the location, character and context. Appreciate the vision to retain the mature trees, and so I'm happy to support as per the RAR.
Thank you. And yes, I too am supportive of the recommendation to approve. The renders show quite an attractive development. I think the retention of the trees is a good example of what can be done on a site, and in a locality it does have quite a lot of vegetation in it. Planning framework certainly promotes this sort of development or allows this sort of development. So I am fully supportive of it. Councillor Winningley, you'd like to close debate on the item?
I think we've said.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll put item 3.1 for the vote. All in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Item 3.2. Mr. Richards, would you like to make your presentation, please?
Yeah, thank you, presiding members and council officer. Again, we're in support of the officer's recommendation for this site. It's a different site to the one we just discussed because it is smaller. It's 910 square metres. It's narrower. It's in an area which is probably closer to the general CBD area. It's built up. There's commercial development in the street, so it has a different presence compared to the residential area. But in saying that, we have to be mindful of the council's policy. Their policy was very much around a 4-storey height limit at the front, which is a bit more commercial in terms of the buildings in that street, as well as a 2-storey height limit at the rear of the property. The site contours are such that it falls off very steeply towards the back of the property. It also falls from east down to west, which allows us to put the driveway on the western boundary. There are a total of, again, we're providing SDA accommodation for this as well. So in total, we've got 10 SDA apartments, 1 participant, 2-bedroom apartments with 1 OOA apartment. Again, we're aiming for high physical support and fully accessible level of support. The site is difficult in terms of the way it's treated. So we've come to a building form which we consider is split into 2 different elements with a central core. The front building is 4 stories. It has a very strong podium and level 1 and then rises above that to have more of a vertical emphasis. The lift lobby is central to a more of an open courtyard area, which will hopefully get the solar access from the north and provide some landscaping as a focal point. What we've then done is provided the common area, if you like, for the participants as a roof terrace. We're trying to encourage the participants to get onto that roof. It will have an aspect, it will have a view, it will be ventilated, and we think that this is an opportunity to create something quite unusual at the rear of the property, but still have the privacy that's required for the adjoining properties. In terms of the site, we are retaining the trees, a couple of trees at the back of the property, which are significant, whereas the other trees, the pine tree, is not as significant. We are then strategically locating additional trees to the site, as shown on the landscape plan, which will form part of these courtyards and we think will add the amenity. The design concept I've mentioned before, it's very much a centralised lobby, landscape park that connects well down to the Undercroft area. So again, we have a 4-storey building element at the front with a 2-storey element at the back. And the purpose is to try and get that northern sun exposure in as much as possible. I've mentioned the site contours before. It is a tricky site, but I think we've handled it reasonably well in the context of the adjoining properties. Very simple articulated elevations. I've mentioned before, strong vertical emphasis at ground level. And then we are using a cladding material, like a timber material, which will rise above that podium and is used around the building in its form. Landscaping, front courtyards are important to the front OOA apartment. We've then got our central courtyard on level 1. And then we've got the rear area now, which we've created and retained existing trees at the back of the property. So we consider, as well as the rooftop terrace, which will also have some landscaping, we think overall there's a good mix of landscaping throughout the project, given it's such a tight site. Construction is the same. We're using probably very solid type construction for the Undercroft brickwork, but then elsewhere it will be concrete column, concrete slab with lightweight infill, and using laminated panels for the cladding to achieve our required 7-star rating. So it'll be a very solid contract. It will have certainly some commercial aspects to it, but provide a high quality finish. The bin area is well located. We think in terms of the street, it's off the main lobby, easy access from the lift to the bin area without interfering with the main entrance statement. So in summary, we're in support of the proposal. It was well received at the DRP meetings. Obviously, there is a minor variation. We've gone back and revisited the height along the eastern wall to reduce that height to assist with the overshadowing on the property next door, understanding that property is subdivided into 2 lots, so they're not wide. So we think, that is probably a better outcome than what we had originally. Again, we future-proof this from a residential point of view and consider it to be a good development in the area, given that it's very central to the CBD area. Happy to take any questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. Panel members, any questions? I have one. Is the basement parking area secured? Is there a security mesh?
We were going to have a gate across the front element. Yep.
Front of the site?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's quite open into the
It's quite open.
Undercroft.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously fenced around it with your landscaping.
Yep.
But an open ventilated car park.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any further questions. Thank you for your presentation. Panel members, have you any questions of council staff on this? If not, let's move into the discussion on the item itself. Do I have a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Linger, thank you. Seconder, Mr. Lee. Councillor, you wish to speak to the item, please?
Same as before, we're very happy to get it's not just development, but it's the quality. And again, trying to retain a few trees. The overshadowing has come up a couple of times, but this is because we're transitioning, or we're trying to transition into the higher buildings. So we're just really happy to see such quality development. And again, it's good diversity for people to come in. Really happy with it.
Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Once again, I just compliment the architect on the design. It's actually really clever use of a very tricky sloping site, and not easily done. And it also it's fitting into a more commercial aesthetic, and it does that really well. But still, I think for NDIS users to be able to live in a building that's pretty trendy and really on mark with design is wonderful, and it does fit into that part of Armadale very well. So just once again compliment the architect.
Okay, Karen.
I concur with the previous speakers. I think this is well thought out. It's again much needed accommodation. It's obviously a quality development, and recognise that this is part of Armadale, which is in transition. So that additional height is appropriate for this location, and I think it will be a very successful scheme. Well done.
Thank you. And from my point of view, I think that the responsible authority report, the officer's report, in the conclusion outlines how the proposal fits in with the activity centre code plan, the city centre structure plan. The development's a very attractive looking proposal and well designed for a narrow site. It does reflect some of the commerciality of the development across the road, and yet it's purposefully built for residential purposes. So I'm supportive of it. Thank you. And yes, Councillor, you wish to close debate on the item?
Nothing further to add.
All right, well, I'll put the item. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay. Moving on to the agenda. Item 4 on list. There's nothing to report on DAP application form 2. No section 31 reconsideration. Part D, there's no appeals noted, or they are noted on the agenda. So I'll put any general business to discuss from the panel. If not, it's fairly sparse here at the moment. I'll close the meeting at whatever time it says, 10:43 a.m. Thank you very much, everybody, for your participation. Thank you, City of Armadale.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time, Councillor.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.